My very first yoga class, like I remember discussing it with people after and they were like, oh, I just love it. It makes me feel amazing. And I was like, what?
I don't even know how I was supposed to start this because we've already been talking for like half an hour.
Yeah.
So we're just going to jump in. The first thing we need to know is, obviously, I know who you are.
Yes.
Everyone else may not.
Yes.
So first thing, tell us who you are.
So I'm Rebecca Stewart. I'm a yoga teacher by trade. I'm 27 and at the moment one of my biggest focuses is sort of on to just helping people to feel a little bit happier and healthier in their bodies through yoga.
Awesome, that's what we're all about. So what I wanted to get into with this was, I know yoga's awesome and also I know that I need to do it more often. Like everyone says, you need to find the time and all that crap. But obviously we all start somewhere. And for a lot of people, coming into yoga can be quite intimidating. So obviously you had to start somewhere as well. So what was it like for you starting out?
So my very first yoga class, and I think this is the same for a lot of people, I can't really remember it. I think it was in a gym. But I know that I definitely enjoyed it, but it was a really huge class. So I just have to address that was my first class, but my first more pinnacle class. I was living in Australia and I was working as an au pair, and at the time I was quite down, and I think, you know, when you haven't really realised how down you were until you look back on that time. And I was in a little bit of an unhealthy relationship, and Australia hadn't been quite the dream that I'd expected it to be. But I was living with this family and the mum used to do yoga and she said to me, why don't you go? And I went to the class, and so I had a sort of idea of what to expect briefly, but like not really. So some of the things that I really remember are not understanding a lot of the words that they were saying, laughing at the ums, like really laughing at the ums. And now if people laugh in my class, I'm like,
how rude.
How rude.
Not getting what this is all about.
How dare you. But like I did, and I was like, I remember discussing it with people after and they were like, oh, I just love it. It makes me feel amazing. And I was like, what?
Yeah, I remember
I'm thinking,
that.
this is so weird. My palms slipping and like my wrists really hurting. And definitely feeling like I was the only one in the room who couldn't do it. And I was so fascinated by the teacher. Like I wanted to know everything about her. I actually sent her a message only a couple of months ago. She must have just been like, I have no idea who you are. And I just said thanks, because I think that really matters, you know, that first experience in a class. But yeah, so I kind of went in. I honestly, I don't think I really knew what to expect. I think my perception of it now was a lot different. Instagram was a lot different then. There wasn't as much of a scene of what yoga was. So I just kind of went along, and all I really remember is I was walking home, and as I say, I was a little bit down. It was winter in Australia. That does happen. They do have winter in Australia. And it was raining. And I was walking home, and I just remember it was pouring with rain. I was freezing, and I was just happy. And I was like, what is this? And that's what took me back, and that's what kept me going. It was $25 a class. Yeah. And I still went back.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was a big impact on the first one.
Yeah, it really was, yeah.
So when the au pair mum, I don't know what you call it, but the family you were with, so obviously she had her reasons for going, and she probably recommended it to you because maybe she recognised you were kind of in a bit of a down place.
I think she definitely did, yeah. I always look back and I always give a lot of credit to the family that I was with, because I think, you know, I was only 20, I think, and she was about 36, and I think she did, definitely. And she's seen some things in me, and, you know, I was really funny about food and things like that then, and it was a big transitional time for me. And I think she just said, like, why don't you go and try it out as a way to help me out, and look at me now.
And it's really interesting, like, your experience with that. And, you know, people talking about the arms and saying, oh, like, that's my favourite, I love it, and they get different things from it. Obviously, a lot of people think when they're first going into yoga, they think, I should start doing yoga because I need to get more flexible. And, like, that's what it's all about. That's what it's for. But, like you said there, like, the mum of that family, she recognised that there was more to it. She knew there was more to it, and maybe you didn't at that point until that moment in the rain where you felt cleansed or whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
The yoga high.
And so, like, from that point then of the first time going in, not really knowing what's going on, being like, what's all this stuff, and having a laugh with it, how has it kind of changed for you now? Like, what does it mean to you now compared to what it did then?
I mean, I guess now I'm like Nat, the mum who helped me, you know, and I see people and say you should do yoga, and it's the same what you've just said, you know, I'm getting that feedback back of, you know, I'm not flexible, I'm not this, I'm not that. A lot of the questions that I get asked a lot is, you know, how many calories will I burn or will I lose fat?
Oh,
and
really?
I'm like, oh, come on guys, it's not about that. But I guess you do forget your, you know, not knowing when you first went into it. And that's why I was really glad when you asked me to do this, so that I could spread the message more about it. So obviously now I see it completely as, you know, a healing thing. One of the things I always say at the start of my class is have a think about what brought you here. And even if the person is there because they're thinking, okay, I want to lose a bit of weight, or I want to become flexible, or maybe they want to connect more spiritually, or they want to relax, whatever it is, the reason is always to have a positive impact on their life. And that's what I always tell people to focus on too. And the thing obviously that differs a little bit with yoga to other physical activity. I mean, now my mindset's shifted a little bit. I do think that you can apply the same mindset to any physical activity and get the same yoga high. But it's the focus onto the breath. And when we're focusing onto the breath or onto whatever else we may have to focus onto, and what we're focusing onto is never how flexible we are. We're focusing on to, say I focus onto like a vision point or the breath, and it becomes like a moving meditation. So we're in the society that we live in now, you know, if you ask someone to sit down and sit still, it becomes very difficult. Whereas if you're coming into a room and you're being guided and reminded to breathe, but at the same time you're moving in the way that you used to, because we're used to moving so much. And then you've kind of almost done this little sneaky meditation without realising, and then that's why I think at the end people are like, oh, what's that? And it's like, because you've spent an hour focusing onto your breath and focusing onto yourself and onto your body, you're not with your phone, you're not with a screen, you're not really, you have got to think about what you've got to do, but not really. Somebody else is there for you, guiding you through it. And it's almost like this little, you know, spa, nice experience. A lot of people say that when they come here. It's like going to a spa, and you come out and you get your shower and you just feel fresh. And I think in the beginning you don't really know what's going on, and over time obviously you delve a little bit deeper into the other aspects of yoga and you start to gain a better understanding. But initially, I guess that's what it is. It's like a little sneaky meditation that you're being forced into.
That's something that struck me. Actually, that stands out to me from my first yoga class as well. So I first did mine, same as you, in a gym when I was back at uni. And I thought, again, I was going into thinking, I've been weight training a lot, I should probably do yoga because it makes you more flexible, so it kind of counterbalance it. And I remember going through the class and doing all these different like stretches or poses, whatever they were in my head at the time. And then the instructor says, all right, cool, we're going to go into headstands now. And I was like, hold on. Like, what, you're just going to go into headstands? What are you talking about? It's the first time I've been here. I'm thinking, what's going on? And she started doing this thing. And like you said, you were like fascinated by the instructor. And she's like an older lady and just pops into this headstand. I was like, what's going on? So like we go into it and she, like you say, she's guiding us through it. Think about this, now think about this, try and do this bit. And me like being like lifting weights, thinking I should be strong enough to do this bit she said is hard. Like I did manage to lift my feet off the ground, like stay there in a headstand, and I was like, wow, this is mental. And I was there and I was doing it. And then came back down from it, and she said something along the lines of how while you were doing that, your full awareness will have been in staying upside down, nothing else. And it just hit me, and I was like, oh yeah, like I wasn't thinking about anything else. I wasn't thinking about my essays or my work or anything. I was just thinking about being upside down.
It's just and being present, isn't it? Which is like what we lack so much. And I think it can even, that's why I say it can, you know, you can then apply it to any other movement, of course, and you might know that now with practicing yoga. You could go and lift weights and you can apply the same mindset and you can just be in the weights. And I think it's just something that we really lack. Today, all of us, you know, inclusive of me, that we just move. You know, mindful is obviously a very buzzword,
like a buzzword
at the minute, and you know, we are mindless because society makes us that way, and you've got to move fast, otherwise you know, you're going to fall behind. So coming into yoga just gives you that little bit of time just for you. Do you know what I mean? I think I wanted to just emphasize it's definitely not about the postures where you've just said you get into headstands in your first class. People are coming into me And they're like, I want to do headstands. I'm like, okay, so where'd you practice that? They're like, this is my first class. I'm like, okay, so let's not think about that right now. And I think what is important to remember, just like anything. And I was listening the other day to one of the girls on our desk talk to another girl who's been posting her progress on Instagram. Yeah. Now, as I say, when I first started teaching, I wasn't really using Instagram. It wasn't really like a thing. That's about 5 years ago. And it's obviously picked up a lot more recently. So when I post now, there's not really so much of the progress pictures, and I didn't really take pictures in the beginning. But she said to her, I think it's amazing because you can really see the progress. And I was a little bit like, okay, listening over and thinking, oh, people mustn't see that on mine. And then I thought, well, you should be able to see the progress in the posture in itself, do you know what I mean? And recognise that must have taken a period of time to get there. That's what I always just remind people. It's just consistency. Like anything in your life, don't come in with a goal. Just come in and just think, I want to do this because I want to feel better. I want to do this because I want to have a positive impact on my life. And that might result in a headstand. That might result in lying in relaxation for an hour comfortably. But once it becomes that lifestyle, it just becomes something different altogether. And though the postures may initially draw you in, or the stress relief may initially draw you in, it'll just become a part of your life once you get into it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it and to look at goals in general.
Yeah.
It's like for a little while now, I've not done such like specific goal setting with my clients and personal training and stuff, because I kind of found a lot of the time people don't even know like actually what their goals are. They kind of guess, and they know they want something to be better. Like you say, they know they want to feel better or to be more confident or whatever it might be. And I think you're right, like saying if you just come into it feeling like you want something to be better and this will help that in some way, then just go through it, just let it happen and find out how that results. I think
some kind of goal is good, but I think just letting go of I think definitely as well, something I'd like to touch on because it's very important to me, like, physical image goals, and not to take away from wanting to be physically more healthy, but to try and achieve a very particular specific image. And what yoga's done for me, and it's funny when people come to me and they say, how many calories do I burn? Or will yoga make me tone up, and will it this or will it that? And the truth is, it has maintained my body in a very healthy way, but it's like that hasn't been the goal. And what's happened for me when I've been doing yoga is I've became to get so much more in tune with my body and love it and appreciate what it's doing for me, that those things are no longer a focus for me. And that was a huge element of healing for me through yoga, because I was like, wow, there's so much more to me than just this body, which seems crazy, and that's the sad part of yoga, I think, at the moment, where it's being just shown by the body, and I do it just as much as any other yoga teacher. But that's a big thing that I'd like to push to a lot of people, that it really helps you to get in tune, and you're like, wow, look at all these things that my body does, and you're no longer looking to change the physical appearance, and it'll just happen naturally. It's like letting go of the appearance thing, but knowing that it will happen if you introduce it as a part of your life. I had it even with lifting weights, and I went into that and I was very much like, okay, I've settled with my body now, we're doing yoga, but I want to go and do weights now, I want to get a bit of shape. And I got to this point about like a year in, and I was like, what am I doing? There's not going to be one definitive body shape that I'm going to just have. And I'll be like, yes, okay, that's it now. I'm done with these weights. And it shifted with that for me as well. And suddenly I was like, no, I'm doing this because I want to get stronger and because I enjoy it. And I suppose that's a process, and you can't really say that to somebody just starting out, because, if that's what motivates you to come, then great. But just know that it's so much more than that. In everything, I think. Pushing yourself to do things because of the way they make you feel, mentally, physically, in a health way rather than in a aesthetic way.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot with people. Like, it's been the same for me as well. Like, when I first started training in the gym in uni, my focus was on like appearance and looking better and getting bigger and that. And eventually I hit a point where I lost that drive. Like, I didn't need to look better anymore. And then I kind of lost focus with training. But then eventually I got more into kind of like body weight based training, just because I wanted to be able to do cool stuff. So then it was more about just the training for its own sake then. And then obviously things change as a result of that.
Yeah,
like if you're
exactly.
training more just because you're enjoying it, if you're doing it because it makes you feel good, then you'll get the other positive benefits as a result. And it's probably more like, even if it does start out being you want a particular body shape, you may never get that particular body shape just because that's not your body's shape at the end of the day. But it'll be a much improved one because of what you're doing, and you'll see that if you focus on if you focus on the process of it rather than the end result. When you eventually one day notice the end result, you probably catch yourself in the mirror and go, wow,
I think that's kind of what happened to me. You know, suddenly people are saying, no, you look really healthy and you look really well, and it's like, wow, it's when I really let go of that thing of being like, oh, I haven't got this, or I haven't got that, or I haven't got the other. So I'd like to say, actually, with the yoga, and a lot of people will tell you this, my girlfriend actually did her dissertation on it. I'm not sure exactly the question, maybe you can podcast her next, but about the relation between diet and yoga. And a lot of people, what I always say to people when they come into yoga with those kinds of goals, and they'll come to me and say, does yoga make you lose weight? And I always will just say, it will, how do I say the word? It will influence a lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle. So yes, that may result in weight loss. For me, it actually resulted in weight gain because I was a little bit underweight. And people will find that you'll come to yoga and you'll do a class, and so many people say this too, and it happened with my online course. I was just saying before, I didn't know if it was going to have the same effects on people, and I was really worried about that. And so many of the girls messaged and they were just like, oh my god, I just want to eat healthier. Because I think after you've done a practice and this spa type feeling, you don't come out and think, oh, I want to eat loads of crap junk food. You think, oh, I feel like something fresh and something healthy, and that's why them two lifestyles go together. And again, you could go off on loads of different tangents. That could also become a little bit detrimental if you feel you need to be eating a certain way. But it's just getting in tune with your body, and then suddenly you go, I want to eat that. And then so you eat that food, do you know what I mean? Or you'll eat something, you think, oh, I didn't actually fancy that. And you start to get to know yourself a lot better. And I think that's really what yoga is really all about, is just getting to know yourself.
Quality. And like what you said there about, you've done this yoga class, you feel really fresh, however you feel coming out, and you don't then want to kind of spoil it in a way with like the crap you're going to put in it via food. A lot of people say that in the gym as well, like definitely. In the past with clients and just members that I've spoken to. Like they'll say, oh, I've come in to do a run because I know then I won't want to go home and eat crap. And like people already kind of have that understanding of it, but then they forget those things, those kind of more, I don't know, what would you call it? Would you call it holistic? I would never know when to use that word.
I guess so.
But kind of like that self-understanding of like, I know that if I do something that's good for me, it'll make me want to do other things that are good for me. But then they kind of forget that when they start focusing, like we said, on that external appearance again. And like, if you choose to focus properly, you get the right result.
Yeah, exactly. And I've done that. And what you'll do then is, one of the most important things, and I know you stress this a lot, is like rest and sleep. But when you're focused onto this, oh, I've got to do this and I've got to look this way, you ignore your rest and your sleep because you think, I've got to get this done. And then, you resultantly, generally, I find with a lot of people, you end up eating a little bit worse and behaving a little bit worse because your energy is low. Instead of like preserving that energy, thinking, okay, I might just leave today, doing it another day, and then just feeling better like in that way. I just thought of something then, but it slipped my mind, so I'll have to just come back to it if it comes.
It'll probably come back later. Son, I wanted to pick up on that you mentioned briefly before, was you mentioned like the healing part of it briefly earlier on, and like we've said a few times, there's so many different things that you can get from yoga and from practicing. And it's not just getting more flexible, it's not losing weight, it's so many different things. And you've spoken quite a lot on your Instagram recently about healing and about how it can heal you in different ways. And maybe that's because of what we were just saying, if you've done yoga, then you feel like eating better as well, so you feel like sleeping better as well, and it all knocks on. But has there been any kind of like things that stand out in terms of healing to you, maybe for yourself or for people that come into your class?
Yeah, I mean, it goes way deeper. Yoga is a rabbit hole. But obviously when you're first hitting with people and people are thinking about going to their first class, you know, you don't want to scare people off with what you might call the woo-woo stuff or whatever. You know, and everybody in my family thinks I've lost my mind. When in fact I always say I haven't, I've found it. So, you know, yoga's a spiritual practice. Yoga itself, the word yoga means union, which is often defined as union of body, mind and breath, which is kind of what we've just talked about. The way I was always taught over in India is it's a union of your consciousness with a universal consciousness. So it's a belief in a higher reality. It doesn't have to be a god or anything like that. I don't really think of a god, but I think of, you know, something bigger looking after us. And people are talking about this all the time. Again, it's a bit of a buzzword about like the universe is looking after you. And, you know, when you're looking at yourself, you know, the universe is within us as much as it's external to us. So it's deep, you know, and you start going down this big rabbit hole of like things. And it's that where the healing came from for me, because you start to go inside really into yourself and understanding yourself a lot deeper. So obviously a lot of the things I struggled with were like body issues and eating issues and things like that, confidence issues. And since yoga's been introduced into my life, and it's like you recognise the world as like this, not even the world, beyond the world, like this vastness, and suddenly, and I wouldn't like to say that some of these problems are small because everything's relative, but suddenly you're like, whoa, this doesn't even matter. You know, and on a spiritual sense, your goals become a lot different in towards how you want to grow and what you want to be as a person. Because if you were to think of it as if you were going to evolve and move on from this life, you know, you have to recognise your traumas in this life and work through them. And that can be hard. You know, sometimes yoga's brought up trauma for me, and I've been like, whoa, what's going on? And you might have like a little healing crisis. You know, and a lot of people after yoga, they'll cry and they'll be like, why am I crying? It's because your body is stored energy, and you know, I always think it comes down to experience with stuff like this, and I'm more about experiencing things than reading about them. So, you know, I could tell you all day that your body stores trauma, and you might be like, that's not possibly true. But then suddenly when you release that trauma, when you're lying in a stretch, you'll know that your body has stored trauma, you know, and just like your body would store anything, and if things become blocked, you know, you're going to block toxins and things like that, and at the same time, you're going to block emotions and things like that. And when you start to open your body, my tagline of my thing was always open mind, open body. And the more you begin to release things, the more you begin to release things in your body as well and feel a lot more relaxed. So it's deep. It's definitely a lot deeper than getting flexible and toning up the body and touching the toes. You know, you can be a yogi and never, ever, ever get on your mat and move. It's just about that path.
Yeah, what you said about people at the end of a class, like crying. Like I'll often be in a class but people will just be totally normal about it. Like if they've done it for quite a while. Like the last one I went to, it was somewhere in Mughal, and one of the girls at the end, you know, the instructor said like, how was the class for everyone? And one of the girls said, oh yeah, it was great. I had a little cry there at the end, and it was just, that's just the way it was. And I've done that as well. I've not had a cry in yoga, but I had a time where I went for a massage, and obviously it's a lot of the same things in terms of like the muscle and releasing things and releasing tensions and stuff like that. And at the end of that one particular massage, I literally just lay there and cried for like 5 solid minutes. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. And like my friend Laura, who was doing the massage, was like, it just happens, like same thing. She said, you know, you store emotions in your body. Because like when you think about it, when you feel an emotion, you feel it in your body. Like when you feel nervous, it's in your stomach. When you feel nervous, you know, your palms get sweaty, tingly, whatever. And so like we feel emotions in our body. And so that's the same place we store them as well. For the same reason. And then obviously if you don't let it go, then it stays there and
I think that's one of the big things of yoga, and you'll see it a lot. It's like, you know, we think of like body and we think of mind, and it's like body mind, it's a body mind connection, it's one. And if you listen to any like gurus and stuff like that, that's what they're talking about. You know, it's like there is no separation between the body and the mind. So I always say to people, you know, you might find a person who's very stressed in the mind, so the way that they work, and therefore it manifests in the body. And I always use myself as an example of the reverse, because mentally, I wouldn't say that my life's that stressful, but I put a lot of stress on my body. So it causes a lot of stress into the mind, and it's you know, the both ways. And most diseases now that we have are psychosomatic, and you know, they start in the mind and manifest in the body. And that's where it helps as well, because it's making that union of the body and mind and recognising things. I actually should have said this before, in my first ever yoga class, this was again where I was thinking, oh, what's she talking about? But my hands are like this, and they're slipping and they're slipping and they're slipping. And I said to her, I can't keep my hands down, like they're just slipping. And as I say, I was in a relationship at the time, which was a little bit destructive, shall we say. He wasn't very good to me. And she said, I'll tell you about that in a minute. And she carries on teaching the class. And then she said, so there's meridian lines in the body. You can look them up, meridian lines. And your heart meridian line is connected to your palm. So when there's like something that needs to be released from the heart, it causes sweatiness in the palms, or can. And obviously for me in that situation, it really resonated. And that's what I always say to people. If it resonates, take it. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But obviously for me, that really did at that time. And then I found, that the heart meridian line comes straight down and out from the palms. So it's interesting. There's so many levels and layers to it. And yet, like you say, you feel things, don't you? Everybody says it. Or when you cry, or you feel a pain into you, like a broken heart, and it's because you have obviously, the chakra points and you feel it into that particular area.
Yeah. So what you said there, like with, your hands were sliding before, and then the instructor told you about the connection and everything to your hand. So would you now, if you notice like your palm starts sliding again, or you notice something along those lines, would you use that as a, what do you call it, like a trigger for you to go, oh, like there's something going on and I'm not aware of, but it's showing, so to sort of look in at things?
Almost always, when I get an injury in the body, think of it as a spiritual thing and as okay, what's going on here? I have had this constant injury in my bum and in my shoulder. Now the one in the shoulder is right at the back of the heart, and I've repeatedly tried to fix this. I've gone to so many people, and I feel like something's stuck. And quite often when I'm more sad or down, this pain gets worse. Yeah. And like, I don't think that's a coincidence, and I always try and look at things like that. And even if, you'll find people sometimes, we talk about this stuff all the time, and people don't realise what they're saying and they're speaking about, on, not always anyway, on an energetical and universal level. And we say, when somebody falls over, for example, somebody who does an awful lot, and they fall over and break their ankle, and you're like, oh, you're being made to slow down. Yeah. And sometimes it's just that, and you might experience things where you're like, and I think that's what's happening with me at the moment with this. It's making me readdress the way that I'm moving and the way that I'm treating my body. Because I kind of got to the point where I was like over pushing it, because you start to be able to do things and you're like, okay, I'm going to push a little bit further. And I've really had to pull back and again reconnect with my body. So sometimes like pains or these little things can be a blessing, because you learn a lot more about yourself. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, and something I'll often say to clients and things about pain and stress as well, as a type of pain being an indicator. It's not a bad thing. Yeah. It's there to tell you something's going on. Yeah, exactly. So notice it. Exactly. Don't be like, oh, friggin' hell, I've got a headache, I'm going to pop like a tablet to get rid of the headache. Like, stop and ask yourself, why have I got a headache? Yeah. Am I not looking after myself properly? Yeah. Why is my knee hurting? If your knee's hurting, like you say, it's your brain saying to your body, right, we're going to make this hurt so we don't go as fast, because I need to slow down for some reason. Exactly. And so like anytime you've got like any kind of pain or anything, it's good to notice. And again, it just comes back to that self-awareness thing. Isn't it? It's your body saying, okay, something's going on here. And that's where, like I said before, you start to love your body, because you're like, oh wow, thanks. Thanks for. I remember I used to have really bad acne, and I was working with someone. He was helping me to sort of like clear it out. I was doing like different fasts and changing up my diet and stuff like that. And he said, you know what, Beck, you need to thank your skin. You need to say thank you, because it's pushing things out of your skin, and it's letting you know that there's things inside of it that you need to change. And I don't get a spot now ever, because I focused onto my skin, and I am grateful that my body was able to push those things out. Yeah. And instead of just like popping a pill to get rid of it, I adjusted my lifestyle to fix it. Yeah. Right. So we've covered loads of stuff there. Yeah. Right from you getting started, what it was like for you then, to where you're at now, all the kind of different things you've learned over that time. And there'll hopefully be someone listening who's thought, oh, like, even if it was that last bit, like, oh, I wonder if yoga can help me clear my skin up, or whatever it might be. Hopefully there's some people listening thinking, I want to get into yoga now. So how would you advise people to get started? Okay, so I'm a great teacher, so you should definitely come to me. No, just find a class, you know, nearby. There's so many yoga classes. It depends on where the person in the world is listening, you know, or just get to Google, type in there, look it up. You can come to me if you were looking for me. I'm in Liverpool, obviously. I'm at Liverpool Yoga Studios primarily, and I'm at Yoga Sita. They are both based in the city centre. Both studios, and most studios in Liverpool do offers of like £30 for 30 days or £30 for 40 days, and you can go along and you can try out every single class for that amount of time. And then obviously there's online stuff. I'm just launching an online course and an online website, so you can always get in touch with me. I'm beck.yoga on Instagram, so you can always go there and find me. But yeah, it doesn't even have to be anything like that. You know, you can buy a book, you can just get moving, you know, start stretching. I say to people, one of my main things that I say to people, don't do this if you've got any knee injuries, but just start sitting down on the floor more instead of sitting on a couch, you know, and you can do little things. And it's like what we were saying before about some of the things that we're trying to do, and you look at the end goal and you think, oh, but it's so far away. And it's like, okay, if you want to start yoga, just start moving your neck, you know, every day. Yeah. Or make a goal that you're going to reach down and touch your toes every day, or just something, just move a little bit more, you know, just stretch out a little bit more. But try and find a local class, because it is nice to have a teacher to just get you started.
Yeah. Awesome. I can't wait to listen to all this back. So one last thing then, you mentioned your girlfriend before.
Yes.
So is there anyone else you would recommend for me to try and get on the podcast?
Definitely. So I'd say definitely Emma. She'll give you sort of a little different insight from her side out. And then I was just thinking of Ethan then and the guys from Liverpool Health and Wellbeing, because what they're trying to do kind of fits into definitely what we're both trying to do, and they're making a lot of changes in the city. And I'd just recommend anybody really of the vendors from the Health and Wellbeing Festival, because I think we all sort of fit into the same ethos. So if you're in Liverpool and you can get down there as well, that would be great.
Awesome. Well, cheers for being on the podcast then.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, and I hope that you all want to come to yoga now.
Hopefully they all come down. Right, how do we wrap this up?
I don't know. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste means the light in me recognises the light in you. So, namaste.
Namaste.